Hi, Carl again. I'm going to share with you firecraft skills. It's going to be divided up into 5 separate lessons.
So, the fire triangle, all right? The fire triangle are 3 things that you need in order to start a fire, all right? Now, there's 2 sets of 3s, all right? Just so you don't get confused. First of all, we have what's called the fire triangle. There are 3 components to the fire triangle, okay? With the 3 components, you have oxygen, you have fuel, and you have heat. You have to have all 3 of those in order to have fire, okay? So you take your oxygen, then you take your fuel, and you add heat. Now you have the components for a fire, and that's basically the fire triangle. Now the problem is, heat doesn't necessarily mean a flame. There's a thing called spontaneous combustion. Now, if you use a paper towel or cloth rags and use certain chemicals like boiled linseed oil, if you put those cloths or paper towels into a box and put them off to the corner, boiled linseed oil in that box and on those rags will create its own heat and burst into flames. So you don't necessarily have to have a flame to start a fire. Commonly when we do a campfire, we usually use a match or some other sparking device in order to create that fire. Alright? Now later we'll discuss the 3 things we need to have in supply in order to actually do our fire. And that's tinder, kindling, and fuel. So don't get confused. You got 2 sets of 3 going on. Okay? First of all was this. Now, in order to put out that fire, you need some water, you need some sand, and you need a shovel. Okay? Now, hold with me. So, here I have 2 buckets, okay? In these 2 buckets, if I can get them apart, I have, see, 2 buckets. 1 bucket empty is for dirt. When I dig my fire pit, I'm going to put my dirt in here if I actually dig up dirt. If not, I'm going to find a place to get dirt. Okay, then I have water. Here I got a couple of soda bottles full of water. If I'm near a stream, I just use water from there. Usually in camp you're going to have some kind of water. And then I have a shovel, okay? This is a military style shovel. Doesn't want to open. See, so it just unfolds. You do not want to start a fire unless you have all of that ready before you even strike a match. Alright? So, what you're doing is you're removing some of the, you're removing the heat and you're removing the oxygen. Okay? You're going to do what we call sprinkle, stir, sprinkle. I'll show you that later. Okay, so now I'm preparing a place for a fire. Okay? Now this is going to be real simple. This would be a small fire. Thing you need to know about building your fire is you only need enough fire for what you're doing it for. Okay? If you're cooking one little meal, then and it's for yourself, you don't need much. Okay? Basically what I'm doing is, you see I'm filling my bucket so I have a place. Okay? Now, my fire triangle. Oxygen is all around us. Okay? So, tell you what, let's zoom this in a little bit so you can see more what I'm doing. Alright, that's better. So, what we're going to do is we're going to make what's called an A-frame fire. Okay? So, the A-frame fire, yeah, kind of looks like the fire triangle, doesn't it? Now this is raised so you can get a match or something underneath there to start it. However, you want to make sure that the wind, if you have wind, is coming in through this side. Now, what I try to keep with me is I try to keep a little bag that has my tinder in it, because you can't always guarantee you have some tinder. I collect this while I'm out and about. We would call this a browse bag, okay? So let's take our tinder and we'll put our tinder on here, okay? I got a few little sticks of wood there. So see, oh, look at that beautiful, beautiful dry tinder and some sticks of wood. They're ready to go. Now, we're not going to stop here. We would need more than just this before we even strike a match. You don't want to have to go looking for stuff, okay? So now, what we're going to do is I'm going to cheat. The lighter. And I'm going to fire this thing. Nope, wait a minute. You're not ready for this. We needed to discuss a few other things. Well, let's discuss some more fire safety. Okay, now, before we go any further, there are some safety tips that you need to know about fire, okay? Number one, fire is very dangerous. You need to keep your fire to the size that you're actually going to be using. You do not need a bonfire, okay? If you're cooking one meal, fine. If you're cooking for a large group, family, friends, you're going to want a larger area. Now, as you saw, I just cleared a little area. That is for demonstration purposes only. You need to clear at least 6 to 15 feet. That depends on where you're in. You could be in an area where they require it 15 feet. Some areas require 6. You need to check with your local forestry service before you get too excited about building a fire. Also, there are times of the year in certain states and certain areas where you're limited to the times of the day you can build a fire. Like where I am, you can't build a fire until after 4 p.m. Okay? So that leaves you with a cold lunch for well, that's a bit redundant, but a cold lunch. So you might want to think about that in advance. Find out what's going on. Find out what you're allowed to do. All right. Anyway, fire safety. We're in the woods. You find a fire burning. A little bitty fire, like a little bitty campfire, you're probably okay. You could probably put that out if you got something to do it with. However, for the most part, you find a fire anywhere, you want to call 911, whether that fire is at home, whether that fire is in the woods, whether that fire is in a field. Because all it takes is a little bit of wind to change direction, and that fire is going to change its direction. Because the wind drives the fire. Remember, fire burns up, so it's going to burn uphill. You don't want to be that direction, okay? So, you want to be upwind of the fire. Now, call 911, tell them where it is, and stay away. You don't want to get hurt, you don't want to get burnt, because you can, okay? The other thing, at home. Now, I'm going to post a little video here about like a grease fire in the kitchen. It's very good to know, and it shows you what can happen. But one thing they do, and this is in case you don't have a lid handy, it's your second best. Your first best is to use a metal lid to put over that pot, to put over that pan. If you've got one that's the right size, stick it over it. You're going to smother the fire. You're removing oxygen. So that's what you got to do, is remove that oxygen.
If your chip pan catches fire, don't panic. Just follow these instructions. 1. Turn off the heat. 2. Run a cloth under a tap and wring it out. 3. Cover the pan and then wait until it's cooled right down. Don't try and move the pan, and whatever you do, don't throw water over the fire. The effects can be devastating.
Isn't that terrible what happened to that lady? She is doing that video because that is what happened to her. And someone had the sense to show, to make the video, then demonstrate just what could happen. That could happen in your home. You don't want that to happen, guys, okay? And girls. This goes for everybody, okay? I know this is more for kids, but it's also for adults who don't know. She was probably in her 20s when that happened, because there's adults that never thought about that. So be warned, okay? Now, as far as this fire goes, that's it for today, because I'm not going to light it right now. I know, bummer, huh? Well, there's another type of fire that I want to show you, but before we do that, we'll want to discuss tinder, kindling, and fuel, and that's going to be in lesson 2 of firecraft. So if I've missed anything, read up a little bit, talk to somebody who can tell you, and do a little research, but never start a fire until you're ready to put it out. Thanks for watching. I'm Ranger Commander, and again, let's get ready for some adventures in camping. Thanks. Bye.